They're 3-1 out of the gates, and they had a dismal loss on that first game of that 3-game road trip in Miami, but they bounced back really nicely in San Antonio. And then on Monday night in Indianapolis, they took care of business really pretty good. They grabbed the lead, and I think midway through the second quarter, and the Pacers never got within 5 after the Bucks were up by 18. So I guess the first thing that stands out to me that I think I'd like us to talk about is like the alarm kind of is going off. Like, this team is really, really good, and just winning this championship a few months ago was certainly no fluke. They have come out of the gates in a fashion that I don't think that I was quite expecting them to play this well.
Yeah, and there was, opening night, there was no kind of championship hangover. It was even, despite the fact that they're getting their rings and all the emotion there, it was right back to business. I mean, I think that all kind of starts with Giannis and his mentality. He's said it, a lot, that he just tries to focus on the present, and it's clear that that's the team motto now, and I think that the winning the championship allowed them to take a little bit of weight off their shoulder, but we still went into the offseason and came out of the offseason somehow as the underdogs. So it's like they're kind of mentally right where they were, fighting their way back up, and at least nationally as the underdogs with all the stuff going around the Nets and whatnot. But what do you think has been kind of the biggest surprise from that aspect of just picking up where they left off?
No, I think, to me, I think it's been just a different type of swagger, and it's I think it's clear in Giannis. I think it's really clear in Chris Middleton. I think it's really clear in Pat Connaughton, even Jordan Nwora. And that swagger is not it's not an ego thing in a bad way. It's an ego thing in a good way. Like, we won this thing. Right. And we're coming back to win more. And you can just tell just by their attitude, they're grateful they won a championship, but I think they're even more grateful that they won a championship because they know collectively they can go out and do it multiple times. And I think that's the thing. Like, we haven't covered a championship in this state, outside of the Packers, in this city for 50 years. And none of us covered that championship 50 years ago for the Bucks. And it wasn't anything like, they're playing now and the hype and whatnot. So I think swagger, can change over time. And I think this is a good swagger. That's what I'm seeing with this team right now. It's a confident one. And, I think a lot of people share that. Like, what are you seeing, from your perspective? What's opening up your eyes first and foremost?
I think kind of going off of what you were talking about with the swagger, I think for me, Pat Connaughton seems to have – I'm starting to wonder, is playoff Pat the new Pat Connaughton? Is that what he is now? Because there's been a definite step up from regular season to the playoffs. But to start this season, he's still hitting big shots. He's still getting the rebounds. He's still very active. And to me, that's what is most, I guess, not surprising, but most encouraging, is that it's not just Giannis, Chris, Drew that have earned this swagger. It seems the whole team has, you know what I mean? And it's trickling down to the new guys there as well, that they kind of, the way they carry themselves.
Well, and I think part of that is there's so many guys that have come back.
Yeah.
This is a team that, is returning, most of its core. Look, PJ Tucker is probably the only guy that I can possibly think of that, they're missing as far as championship level and what they got every single night, every single game during that playoff run. How many teams can say that? How many teams can really say that when they come back? Most championship teams have lost an enormous amount of their core. It just happens. Bobby Portis comes back for basically a hometown pay cut. Stuff like that just doesn't happen when you're in your prime and you're 26 years old, and he hasn't even played yet.
Right.
I mean, part of the topic line here is the Bucks do have a lot of injury concerns. Drew's played like a game and a half. Lopez played one game. Bobby Portis hasn't played yet. Rodney Hood finally played his first game yesterday. They still have, and Dante's still going to be out for a while. So they're playing at a really good level right now. But I mean, we know who's leading the way, and that's Middleton and Giannis right now, each and every night.
Well, and that's kind of like the thing that we've come to be able to depend on for sure is Middleton and Giannis. But that I think last night was kind of the prime example, was they did a bulk of the scoring, but you got it kind of everywhere. You got Grayson Allen, you got Pat Connaughton. Jordan only had, I think, 9 points. 9 points, but a couple blocks. So you're seeing the activity everywhere. And I think Bud's got to be happy with that. The fact that you've got big guys down, you've got Holiday out, you've got Portis and Lopez. They haven't had Dante for a while, but still there's a lot missing in 3-1. It's got to be encouraging.
Well, yeah. I think, watching yesterday's game, I think it was disappointing to learn that, Drew continues to have some foot problems right now. So he played in the first quarter of game one, played in that game against the Spurs, and then he was out yesterday. Now, look, at this point, so early in the season, they're being very cautious with guys, and we understand that. But, the fact that, here's the other thing, James, I think we were really concerned on, would Giannis even start the season suiting up and playing, considering that knee injury he had, against the Hawks in the Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, then he's back. He's leading the way. He's playing every night. He's playing 30 to 40 minutes a game. He's doing his thing in the lane. He hasn't changed one bit, but he's the one leading the way, and Middleton's right behind him. So I think when you have that kind of that swagger I'm talking about, I mean, how can't you, as Grayson Allen, who wasn't even on this team, it looks like he's a perfect fit for these guys. He's coattailing these guys big time, and it's working out. So is Wara.